Welcome back. Joining me now is House Speaker Mike Johnson of Louisiana. Speaker Johnson, welcome back to Meet the Press.
Great to be with you.
Well, it is great to have you. You just heard my conversation with Congressman Massey, Congressman Khanna. So let me start off with this question. Why did you adjourn the House early? And does it run the risk of feeding the perception that there's something to hide in the Epstein matter?
Look, these are all important questions. Let me be absolutely clear, as we have been from the very beginning. House Republicans insist upon the release of all credible evidence and information related to Epstein in any way. But we are also insisting upon the protection of innocent victims. And our concern is that the Massey and Khanna discharge petition is reckless in the way that it is drafted and presented. It does not adequately include those protections, and I can explain all the details of that. The important thing on the timing, to answer that question first, is that we did not do anything to end the term of Congress early. The Massey-Khanna discharge petition was filed so that it would not ripen until a day after Congress had previously been scheduled for almost a year to be out of session and in the district work period for August. And that is the timing of it. So what we did do this week is end the chaos in the Rules Committee, because the Democrats are trying to use this in a shameless manner for political purposes, quite obviously. They hijacked the Rules Committee and they tried to turn it into an Epstein hearing. That's not what the Rules Committee is about. So that's why the floor votes ended on Wednesday instead of Thursday. But the work of Congress continues, and the schedule of Congress was published well over a year ago, December of 2024. So none of this was a surprise. And Khanna and Massey could have brought their discharge petition a day earlier and prevented that, or, as noted earlier, anytime over the last 4 years. They did not do it during the Biden administration, and that's an important point for everybody to know.
But, Mr. Speaker, it's not just Republicans supporting this. It's 11, not just Democrats, it's 11 Republicans as well. Let me just ask you, because I hear you saying that, yes, the files should be made public while protecting the victims. Let me just ask you, though, should all of the files related to Jeffrey Epstein be released and made public?
Yes, I agree with President Trump, with the Department of Justice, with the FBI, that you need all credible evidence and information out there. That word credible is important. And why? Because you have to protect innocent people's names and reputations, whose names might be, as you noted at the outset of the program, intertwined into all these files. This has been a long legal process. There's a reason, for example, that grand jury materials are protected under the federal rules of criminal procedure, because they're not to be put out. See, the Massey and Khanna discharge petition would require the release. They would require the DOJ and FBI to release information that they know is false, that is based on lies and rumors, and was not even credible enough to be entered into the court proceedings. And that would be a dangerous thing. Our main concern here, though, is the protection of the innocent victims. I mean, these are minors in many cases who were subjected to unspeakable crimes, abject evil. They've already suffered great harm. We do not need their names being unmasked. The Massey and the Khanna discharge petition does not have adequate protections. For example, in the way that it was drafted, they cite that they don't want child abuse, sex abuse information uncovered, but they cite the wrong provision of the federal code, and so it makes it unworkable. It requires the DOJ to release grand jury testimony. They are prohibited by law from doing so. So it is not the right approach. There is another approach out there. The House Republicans on the Rules Committee have a resolution that is well drafted, that is thoughtfully drafted by lawyers, that would make this workable. That's the approach. We have to protect the innocent. We'll do it at all costs.
They do say that they want victims' names redacted, though, just to be clear. Let me move on to Galain Maxwell.
Yes, but their language doesn't adequately produce that. Yes, go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me move on to Galain Maxwell. As you know, Mr. Speaker, the Deputy Attorney General spent 2 days interviewing her. She, of course, has been convicted of grooming, recruiting, abusing young teenage girls, along with Jeffrey Epstein. Mr. Speaker, Maxwell's attorney said she answered all questions honestly and truthfully, but do you think that Galain Maxwell can be trusted?
Well, I mean, look, it's a good question. I hope so. I hope that she would want to come clean. We certainly are interested in knowing everything that she knows. And as you'll note, in our House Republican majority, we're working towards that. Chairman Comer and our Oversight Committee has already issued their own subpoena. They want to bring in Galain Maxwell as well. I hope she's telling the truth. She is convicted. She is serving a 20-year sentence for child sex trafficking. And so her character is in some question. But if she wants to come clean now, that would be a great service to the country, and we'd like to know every single bit of information that she has. I certainly hope she's telling the truth.
Well, listen, this week, President Trump didn't rule out a pardon for Galain Maxwell. Of course, that's one of the big questions looming over all of this. So let me put this to you, Mr. Speaker. Would you support a pardon or a commutation for Galain Maxwell, a convicted sex trafficker?
Well, I mean, obviously that's a decision of the president. He said he had not adequately considered that. I won't get in front of him. That's not my lane. My lane is to help direct and control the House of Representatives and to use every tool within our arsenal to get to the truth. I'm going to say this as clearly and plainly and repeatedly as I can over and over. We are for maximum disclosure. We want all transparency. I trust the American people. I and the House Republicans believe that they should have all this information to be able to determine what they will. But we have to protect the innocent. And that's the only safeguard here that we've got to be diligent about, and I'm insistent upon doing so.
Well, I guess my question is, are you open to a pardon or commutation? I mean, Mr. Speaker, the victims referred to Maxwell as Epstein's right-hand woman. Here's what one victim who testified under a pseudonym told the court at sentencing, quote, "The many acts that were perpetrated on me by Epstein, including rape, strangulation, and sexual assault, were never consensual and would not have occurred had it not been for the cunning and premeditated role Galain Maxwell played." Is that someone deserving of a pardon or commutation in any circumstance, Mr. Speaker?
If you're asking my opinion, I think 20 years was a pittance. I think she should have a life sentence at least. I mean, think of all these unspeakable crimes. And as you noted earlier, probably 1,000 victims. I mean, you know, it's hard to put into words how evil this was, and that she orchestrated it and was a big part of it. At least under the criminal sanction, I think is an unforgivable thing. So, again, not my decision, but I have great pause about that, as any reasonable person would.
Two more critical topics to get to with you, Mr. Speaker. Let's talk about what has been called the Big Beautiful Bill. In June, you told me the bill would not cut Medicaid, but two Republican senators ultimately voted against it because of what they thought were cuts to Medicaid. And Senator Josh Hawley is already out proposing legislation to actually roll back some of the Medicaid cuts that he just voted for. Did the Medicaid cuts go too far, Mr. Speaker?
The bill does not cut Medicaid. The one big beautiful bill does not cut Medicaid. What it does is strengthen the program. And we talked about this, Kristen, is that the problem is there's a high degree of fraud, waste, and abuse in that program. I'm talking about tens of billions of dollars every year. What we did is we went in to go in and fix that. We introduced work requirements, which is a wildly popular notion in public opinion polling because it makes sense. Medicaid is a safety net program. It is intended for the elderly, the disabled, young, single, pregnant women, young mothers, and those resources are being drained because you had able-bodied young men, for example, with no dependents who are riding the wagon. That's not right. It's morally wrong, and it doesn't comport with the law. So what we did in our Big Beautiful Bill is we went in to carve those guys out of that program. They have work requirements now, 20 hours a week. They either have to be working, looking for a job in a work training program or volunteering in their community, which is good for them and their surroundings. We find dignity in our work. We're proud of that reform. And by the way, there was a Harris and Harvard poll that came out about 2 weeks ago, and they looked at 17 of the 21 primary provisions in that Big Beautiful Bill, and 17 out of 21 are majority support in the public, and that's after the onslaught of the mainstream media and Democrats lying about the bill. So we're excited to go out into our districts in August and tell the truth.
But Mr. Speaker, Josh Hawley says he is worried about cuts to payments and Medicaid reimbursements. Why would he be introducing a bill to roll back cuts in Medicaid if there were no cuts in Medicaid? He says the people in his state are going to suffer.
I haven't talked to my friend Josh Hawley about his legislation. I'm not sure what that's directed to, but I will tell you that the One Big Beautiful Bill safeguards the program. It strengthens it. It makes sure that Medicaid will be there for those who actually need it and who the law is intended to provide for. It is not for illegal aliens. We've kicked them off. It's not for people who are gaming the system. We've kicked them off. And it's not for people who should be working. They have to be able to prove that they're in one of these programs in order to get those benefits. And I think taxpayers will be served very well by that. But everything else in the bill is wildly popular as well.
Let me ask you about a critical issue on the world stage. The world has been watching what has been unfolding in Gaza. We are going to show some of these pictures. They're very disturbing, Mr. Speaker. Of course, this humanitarian crisis, children starving to death. Israel has now paused military operations amid the international outcry over this hunger crisis. Are Israel's actions too little too late, Mr. Speaker?
The images are disturbing and heartbreaking. We all want a peace there in that region. President Trump is trying to forge that, and we support it 100%. I will tell you that I've spoken to my friend Ambassador Leiter, the Israeli ambassador to the U.S., and to other Israeli officials. This is important to note. Israel, since this war began, has supplied over 94,000 truckloads full of food. It's enough food to feed 2 million people for 2 years, trying to get that into Gaza. But Hamas has stolen the food. A huge amount. In fact, in 2024, the numbers are that Hamas profited over $500 million in stolen food aid that was supposed to go to these poor people who needed it. That's half of their budget. So this is a broken system. The UN needs to work with Israel to make sure that the food is getting to the people that need it most. The IDF, I'm told as recently as this morning, will begin tomorrow in opening new channels of distribution to get it to those people who are desperately in need. That's Israel's intention. That's the U.S.'s intention, and the UN as well.
All right, Mr. Speaker, we are out of time. We should note the New York Times just yesterday did report that the IDF never found proof that Hamas had systematically stolen deliveries of aid provided by the UN and other groups. We do really appreciate your joining us, and I hear you defending the Israeli position on that. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
You got it. Thank you. Yeah, thank you.